Going live. And Jacob, I think it says that we're on air and live. Are you seeing the same?
I am seeing the same.
All right, fantastic. Real quick introduction. I'm Scott Walker. I live here in Southern California. I have a couple of older kids now, but used to use a service similar to TeenSafe. It didn't work so good, and we realized that we needed something better, and we created TeenSafe a few years ago. And there's an introduction. How about a little bit about you, Jacob?
Hi, I am Jacob Hubers. I am a high school senior out of West Michigan, and I recently learned about TeenSafe, and I wrote a little bit of an article saying some of the dangers that I think could be associated with it, and yeah.
Very nice to meet you. Do you have any brothers and sisters, Jacob?
Yes, I have 3 stepbrothers.
Oh, wow. Okay. Are you the youngest, oldest, or somewhere in the middle?
I am in the middle. I am the second oldest. All
right. I was the oldest, so I kind of know I know a little bit about the differences there. Well, let me start with my first question for you, and I'm sure you'll have some for me also. First question: do you believe that there are parents that are using TeenSafe the wrong way?
Yes, absolutely, and I think that there is the possibility for that. I don't know of any specific cases, but I do think there's a high possibility. And given the number of parents that are using TeenSafe, I think that it is safe to assume that there are some that are abusing it.
Right, right. So what I'd like to talk to you about as far as TeenSafe, we agree with you. We do think that there are parents who really should learn how to better use the tools that we provide. I'll tell you for sure, TeenSafe wasn't created with the idea of 24/7 monitoring of your kids. That's not why we built it. That's not why why I knew that it was needed. But we're really hoping, and I hope you'll agree, we're hoping that we're going to be able to teach parents how to open up lines of communication with their kids, which we think will really be helpful for families. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, and I really do agree with your intention, and I do think that what you're trying to do is very good, but I think that the research shows that this kind of surveillance and this kind of monitoring is not very healthy in a parent-child relationship, and I think that there is a huge possibility for abuse, as I said before.
Right, right. Well, let's talk about it. When you say that you say the research shows, tell me what you mean specifically.
Well, I know I have several sources. One of them is Jay LeBeau, who has a PhD and is a clinical professor of psychology at the Family Institute. And he says that looking at your child's emails or Facebook page creates an environment of distrust and secrecy, and that if your kids can't rely on you to treat them with respect, they won't come to you when they need your help. So I think that is some of the fundamentals of what I'm trying to say, is that this kind of privacy kind of creates distrust, and it creates secrecy, and it kind of ruins that relationship that is supposed to be between a parent and a child.
I completely understand what you're saying. And let me give you, first off, let me tell you TeenSafe's core belief. And we believe this really strongly. We believe that parents should communicate with their kids. If the parent is getting TeenSafe, we've always said, let your kids know. Have an open dialogue with your teens. It's best if you take it in the open and let your kid and let the teen know, hey, I'm concerned. Your behavior has changed. We want to monitor and have a conversation and hear where that leads. I would say that it's certainly the parents are doing their best throughout the country to keep a relationship with their kids. And I'll ask you this question: have you ever had a scenario, Jacob, when a friend of yours started acting weird or withdrawn or just unusual and you couldn't quite put your finger on it?
Absolutely, I do understand that. But before we go any further, I would also like to say you encourage parents to always be open with their child. However, Rawdon Messenger, the CEO of TeenSafe, was on NBC Atlanta 11, and he said that every parent's situation is unique and that only the parent can decide whether to inform their teen of the intent to use TeenSafe. And many parents choose to tell their teen that they're using it, but you say the choice, however, is entirely to the discretion of the parent. So to me, it sounds like it's kind of a 50-50 deal where, you can choose to tell them, but you can also not choose to tell them and do that discreetly.
I completely agree with you. It is 100% up to the parent. By the way, a quick comment. Rawdon is the former CEO of TeenSafe. He has moved on. It's not material to this conversation, but just for the record.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And clearly, there are situations where, in this particular case, we believe that it is up to the parent whether or not they should share with their kids. We just believe that it's good to share with your kids for a lot of the same reasons that that you're saying. But let me give you, I'll give you this question. Do you believe there is ever a time when a parent should have access to their kid's phone or social media?
Absolutely. I think that there is a lot of precedence for parents to have access to this data. But I think a lot of that is when a child has done something to show that they deserve to be monitored, such as they have a history of substance abuse. They have a history of, doing something that is contrary to what the parents believe they think they should do. And I think that what is trying to be marketed is saying we should do this before that even happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are trying. Sure. I want to share a story with you and just kind of get your thoughts on it. Here's a story. This is a real world story of a parent. They had a 13-year-old 8th grade student that was going into high school. And when the kid started high school, it was a 13-year-old girl. And when she started high school, immediately the parents saw something was up. And they tried talking to her, and there was just no communication. She wouldn't talk, just literally just stopped communicating. The parents were concerned. They installed TeenSafe, found out that the kid was being bullied really, really bad. And they actually removed that kid from the school. You might have seen this before, but the popular kids, for whatever reason, started bullying this girl really bad. They removed her from the school, got her into a new school, discontinued the service, within a year, and never had another problem. And that was an example of a parent who was not getting the communication that they needed from their kid, actually using it in a real world example. And I won't sit here and say, that the parents talked to me and said, I won't say that it saved my kid's life, but they will say it certainly saved a horrible experience that they were able to step in and fix. Tell me, what do you think about that?
I think that's a good point. And I think that, yes, TeenSafe does have a lot of uses. And I think that it can be very good in cases of cyberbullying or cases of just bullying in general. But one other thing, I heard a story that was somewhat similar. It was from Detective Inspector John Roos from Task Force Argos. And he is a detective inspector, I believe, in Australia. And he installed child monitoring software on his kid's phone and actually saw cyberbullying as well. He said, I felt so incredibly uncomfortable after that I deleted the app for a start. But I was also privy to a conversation between her, his daughter, and her friend that amounted to a level of bullying. And I could see in her behavior after the communication that it had affected her. And I knew why, because I was privy to it. But I felt so terrible about doing that I would never, never betray her trust like that again. And I think that, yes, it can have a lot of positive uses. And when it is used, it is used very well. But I also think that there's a lot of room to kind of ruin that relationship between a parent and a child if that were exposed.
Okay. I appreciate the story, and I think I think where we're, we agree on a lot of the same things. And I mean, we almost we almost agree and disagree on the same things. In general, I would agree with much of your points in that if the parent is using TeenSafe or another service similar to TeenSafe as a spying tool or some kind of needless 24-hour monitoring for their own amusement, we would be completely against that, and we think that's the wrong thing. But when these tools are used in the proper way, they can be extremely valuable, life-savingly valuable, and they can literally change a parent and a kid's life.
Absolutely, and I agree with you on that. We agree on something. However, I just think that TeenSafe could do a lot more to address some of these issues, and I think that they don't. Maybe in like your Teenology or your blog site that you own and operate or that TeenSafe owns and operates, I think you could do well to address some of the issues with that I really haven't seen that coming from your company.
You know what? I agree with you. I think that's going to be I'm a lot more hands-on this year, and learning from kids like you and from other parents and getting your perspective. It's really going to help a lot, and it's going to teach me, what we can do to make the service better, to make it a more open and communicative relationship. One thing that I did want to bring up for you, in an ideal world, I wish that TeenSafe was never necessary and none of us ever needed it. But because of the fact that especially younger teens can get themselves into situations they don't know how to manage successfully, it really turns out that it's helpful in there. And I think I think kind of based on this conversation, based on a lot of things that we're learning and we're working on to make TeenSafe better, I really like the idea of putting, and you'll see, we're going to put a lot of effort this year into increasing the content to really help. I hope that we continue to help parents to communicate better with their kids, and open up this line of communication, so we don't have the mistrust. We don't want to see that. You don't want to. Kids don't want it. Parents don't want it. It should be used for the right reasons.
I agree. I guess so. Go ahead.
Here's a great question that I have for you. Now, this is just from your perspective, off the top of your head. If you were me, what would you do about TeenSafe to make it better?
Well, I think to start, I would start by addressing some of the issues, such as the possible abuse of the system, as well as how a parent using this without opening that dialogue with their child or without telling their child ahead of time, how that could be very detrimental to their relationship. But I also think I would like to address, or if I were in your position, I would try to address some of the possibilities for abuse, stalking, spousal abuse, child abuse, and just because there is a lot of domestic abuse. And I know one of your goals is to try to reduce some of the sexual abuse that comes from anonymous people who try to pose as younger children online. Mm-hmm. But an interesting statistic I found is that in 8 out of 10 rape cases, the victim knows the perpetrator. And that can be a husband, a father, other relatives, other non-relatives, such as friends and neighbors. And I think it's very important to address that this could just be another means for them to try to control a child in that situation.
You mean somebody illegally using the service? Is that what you're getting at?
Someone legally using a service to access their child's information or someone else's information.
Okay.
Or a parent using that to access their child's information for the wrong reasons.
I understand. A couple of things that I'll bring up for you. First, I don't know if you knew this or not, but when a child, let's use a scenario, pretend your mom signed up for TeenSafe, and I'm assuming, turning 18 soon?
Yes, in June.
Okay. There you go. So happy upcoming birthday.
Thank
and,
you.
On your birthday, the day that you turn 18, whether your parent says it's okay or not, we automatically shut off that service. TeenSafe will not knowingly allow any adult to monitor anyone over the age of 18 that is not their child. So I don't have the right to monitor you. I don't have the right to monitor anybody else. In the event that someone is abusing or misusing the system, we'll work with law enforcement authorities. We'll do whatever it takes to make sure that that's stopped immediately. And that's completely contrary to what TeenSafe was built for.
Okay, yes, that's understandable.
So, do you have any other questions for me, Jacob? I mean, I've had a great a great dialogue with you. I've really enjoyed our time together. Is there anything more about us or anything?
Actually, yes, I do have a couple things. The first is in an interview or a discussion with the International Business Times, the founder, who is Amita Jain, correct?
Amita is one of there's actually 3 of us that started the company. Amita is the wife of our other founder. Yes.
Okay. Well, in this discussion or this article from the International Business Times, she was discussing the how children could act out in relation to finding out their privacy has been given up, or that they don't have that privacy. And she said, how many parents have heard from their child, "I hate you"? Well, if you hear that, you're probably doing a good job, as parents were the least of their worries. And I think just as a child, that is kind of a really offensive statement, or just something that kind of raises concerns, because it just shows, at least it appears to show, that there is little concern for the child's emotions or the child's thoughts on that matter.
You bring up a great point, and let me give you the parents' feedback on that type of comment. That I think that might be a little bit taken out of context, and I'll kind of share with you. I remember when my kids were teenagers, and I want to go to a sleepover at Becky's house, and we find out that there's not going to be any parents supervising Becky's house, and we say, "No, honey, we're sorry. You can't do the sleepover." "I hate you. You're terrible. You're the worst parents in the world. You're ruining my life." So in that context, Jacob, it really depends on the context. Kids want, not always, but kids want what they want when they want it. And sometimes the parents have to make those hard decisions to say, no, that's not okay. I'm the parent. I'm making this decision, and you can't go. And you get that, you're ruining my life. And it can be taken out of context, but it is important to understand that parents do need to have, some kind of rules, and, and the kids hopefully will abide by those rules. So, there is a fine line there. Kids have rights, but at the end of the day, the parent does have to be responsible for their kids' actions.
Okay, yes, and that actually brings me to my next concern. Is it in TeenSafe's belief that children do not have the right of privacy?
Do children have the right of privacy? When you talk about the right of privacy, I would tell you that safety is more important than privacy. In other words, if I believe that my child is in danger, right, for one reason or another, I'm going to intervene. I believe that that's, again, my responsibility as a parent. If I think my daughter's in trouble, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So I want to provide privacy, and please understand, there's a difference between privacy of a 10-year-old and privacy of a 17-year-old.
Absolutely.
It is a big difference. And again, this is this is in that fine line between parenting and, you know, and I like to say monitoring is necessary in this age. Spying is not necessary, and, you know, we don't want to see it. You know, we want the parent to keep that open communication, and you know, it is tough. We do believe that that kids have a right to privacy, but when that right to privacy gets into you know, things that are parental responsibilities, man, it kind of it's a tricky point.
I agree. I think that in most cases a child does have privacy, but I think also in unless when a precedence is shown that the child is doing something wrong, there is that ability that they should have to be able to go and take safety first. But I think that it's important to not do that until you have that precedence or until you have that reason to look through that. And I think that that's just one of the key parts of opening that dialogue, is to make sure that it's not an unlawful breaking of that privacy unless there's actual reason behind that.
I appreciate the conversation, and I agree with you 100%.
Okay, I think that's just about all of my concerns. Are there any other closing questions or concerns you may have?
I think, you know, I mean, I think at this point, Jacob, I'd like to thank you, you know, very much for taking the time out of your day to, you know, to kind of debate these points. I think I've absolutely learned a lot from, you know, from the time that we've had a chance to spend. I hope I've been able to give you a little bit of the parents' perspective. I'm going to take what I've learned and do my best to make the company better. And you know, we'll try to do you know, we'll try to do more to help kids.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. You did teach me a little bit more of the parent's perspective, and I hope I taught you some more of the child's perspective and maybe some more of the psychological perspective that you might not have considered. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this and to sit down and discuss these issues and bring to light some of the discussion that's needed.
Thanks again, Jacob, and I look forward to hopefully let's have this conversation again, maybe in 6 months after you've had a chance to build on some of the ideas that you've provided.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
You too.